The first time, we're getting gang members out, we're getting drug lords out, we're getting really bad dudes out of this country, and at a rate that nobody's ever seen before. And they're the bad ones. And it's a military operation because what has been allowed to come into our country, when you see gang violence that you've read about like never before and all of the things, much of that is people that are here illegally. And they're rough and they're tough, but they're not tough like our people. So we're getting them out.
The White House says, yep, that is exactly what the president meant, saying it's simply an adjective, but a lot of people are saying not so fast. Let's go to Barbara Starr first here, CNN's Pentagon correspondent. And Barbara, there are specific laws that actually classify military operations. Do deportations fit that bill?
Well, not in this circumstance by any stretch. The president, you know, he may have been being conversational in some sense. The White House spokesman saying it was an adjective. He was describing the orderly process that is underway right now, in his view, for the removal of illegal immigrants from this country. But it is not a military operation, not by any stretch. And those are the kind of words that make military commanders squeamish, because in this country, the U.S. military does not conduct operations on the streets of America. This is up to civilian law enforcement, immigration authorities, local police departments, the FBI, everything but the U.S. military, unless there is a massive declared crisis. So let me just say, give everybody a little lesson in law, and I'm no lawyer, but there is something called Title 10 in federal law, and it's for a very specific reason. And Title 10 basically sets out the standards, the laws, the regulations, the way in which the U.S. military conducts operations and largely conducts operations overseas. So, again, the spokesman for the White House says the president was just describing the orderly process going on, but the president did use the word military operation, and it is not by any stretch a military operation. In fact, a short time ago, the Secretary of Homeland Security, John Kelly, a former Marine general himself, said that U.S. military forces would not be used in immigration operations.
Okay. Thank you for the necessary clarification at the Pentagon. Barbara, thank you very much. Just opening this up to my panel. Again, the president, get the bad dudes out of the country. They're the bad ones. It's a military operation. Maybe he was being conversational, and maybe he didn't mean it technically, using our men and women in uniform. You know, we heard Sean Spicer at the briefing yesterday saying our goal is not mass deportation, but the criminals need to go. To your point, we define what a crime is, right. But to use this kind of language.
Well, I think in trying to maybe read Donald Trump's mind, which is not easy, maybe what he's referring to is to the 10 to 15,000 border enforcement agents that they're going to have to hire at a cost of millions and millions of dollars to enforce immigration laws. And that is, I think, maybe, I have no idea, what he was talking about. Again, they're not the military. Again,
right.
they would be border enforcement people.
Sure.
So they're not, to Barbara Starr's point, they're not the military, but maybe
some sort of...
Well, let's be real about something. We have a president and a commander-in-chief who really doesn't have much experience or knows how the government works. I think that when John Kelly, retired General John Kelly says there will be no military involvement, he's the guy running the department. Right. Also, the person with the purse strings, you've got a John McCain, who is the chair of Senate Armed Forces Committee. Good luck trying to get the militarization of immigration through a John McCain.
Ben, what do you think?
Look,
military
I think
operation.
When there's, a military, I think you're going to have some roadblocks. There are obviously people that are going to try to fight him on everything that he does. But I think he sees that he has a mandate from the people that elected him, and this is part of his plan. And he is going to figure out a way to do it. Even if he is a great example is how he was struck down with the courts on this first thing. He's willing, as a deal maker, to go back and redo the deal and figure out a way to implement it. Because I'm standing here at CPAC, I can tell you this. No one thinks it's not going well for Donald Trump. The people that elected him don't think it's not going well. They don't think he's going to hit a roadblock and just disappear. Donald Trump is a fighter. And there are a lot of, rhino Republicans that care about defeating him. I don't think he's going to be defeated easily. And he says he's going to deliver on these things. he will continue to do it. And the people that elected him is who he's fighting hard for right now. And I think he's going to probably be pretty successful. Everybody keeps undermining him and implying that he's not going to get it done or hasn't been able to get it done. They're the same people that said he wasn't going to win the election. They're the same exact people that said they weren't going to vote for him. They'd vote for Hillary Clinton. The same exact people that said he will never be the president. He's the president of the United States of America. He has an agenda, and he's going to get a lot of it done.
Right. And a lot of it will get done, but a lot of it won't get done, and it'll be because people resist Donald Trump's tactics and strategies. And one of the things that he's done is sort of wage war against people who are in this country domestically, in the streets. When you say you're going to have military operations, as Barbara Starr said, it's just not true. It's just not accurate. And when military experts say this isn't accurate, but the White House doubles down on it, as opposed to saying, hey, he misspoke, he was being hyperbolic, which is their normal kind of shtick. He said something wild. They say, oh, he's just being, hyperbolic. He doesn't really mean it. This time they double down on it. That's dangerous, not because of the technical specifics of whether it's legal or not, although that's important, but also because it reflects an attitude toward how you engage the immigration question. If you treat undocumented immigrants as enemy combatants, if you treat people who are working and struggling and contributing to this country as violent offenders, then we have a problem. Now, yes, there are some violent offenders. Those are the outliers. But when you take the outliers, you put them in the center and frame them as the bunch, that becomes very dangerous. And that's the rhetoric. That's what
exacerbates the fear issue that we keep hearing from people, even though the White House says one thing.
Hold on.
Go ahead, Ben.
You look at the numbers and those that have been affected in the recent days and weeks. The majority of them statistically are people that actually had criminal records. That if you talk to those in law enforcement, and my father's in law enforcement, they're not out there randomly stopping people going, are you an American? They have a list of people that have broken laws, and that is their top priority. Law enforcement has made it very clear that they're going to go after people that actually have committed crimes, not just, and that's their top priority. So some of this is just flat out fear mongering instead of it actually being about the issue, which is if you're in this country illegally and you break our laws and you are a criminal in this country, that is their priority right now.
But listen, the devil's in the details here. How do you describe crime? What is criminal activity, right? Nobody's going to argue. Nobody's going to advocate that, a rapist, a murderer stay in this country. I hope that they get fully punished and then that we get rid of them. But is running a red light a crime? Is a DUI a crime? Is shoplifting a crime? Are things, is selling a little pot when you were a teenager a crime? We don't have that information yet. We don't know how this is going to be implemented. And right now, Ben, I can tell you, there's a lot of parents, there's a lot of hardworking people that are not criminals that have gotten picked up. A lot of people that are members of mixed families, where maybe there's one who is undocumented, one who's a U.S. citizen. There are going to be U.S. citizen children that are left fatherless or motherless in this country because people are getting picked up that are not hardened criminals the way you are describing. None of us are arguing with hardened criminals getting punished.
There has to be some responsibility for your actions. When you choose to put your family in harm's way and your children in harm's way by breaking the laws of any country in the world, you are not a victim. You chose to put yourself in that situation. And the second thing that scares me is a moment ago when you basically acted as if somehow someone getting a DUI is not a major offense. I was hit by a drunk driver. He died at the scene, and thank goodness my family lived. There's a lot of people that are watching and listening right now that would say that if you are in this country illegally and you get caught with a DUI and you killed a family, an American citizen, or even another illegal immigrants for that matter, that's a major crime. You deserve to be. So
we don't know the definition of crime yet under this new executive order.
That's the point.
If the act of crossing the border illegally or staying here illegally is defined as a crime, then 11 million people are going to be defined as criminals and deportable without a legal recourse. And good luck trying to run this nation with a gaping hole of 11 million people who have been working and contributing and making this a better country.
And the president has said
good luck running a country where you have open borders and you have so many illegals that you don't even know how to deal with them because there's 11 million of them and you cannot track them because there's 11 million of them. That's why Donald Trump won the election. When you decided to go against Donald Trump and went for Hillary Clinton, more people sided with him on this issue and said it was important to them. This is not an unpopular issue for Donald Trump. It's a very
Actually, less people. 3 million less people voted for him, and no, they were not undocumented.
So here's my point. If you read the executive orders, the question people are raising is this mass deportation, but just undercover? Will it eventually become a mass deportation?
Right.
As Ben points out, if coming in illegally is the crime,
right,
well, then everybody who came in illegally,
to Anna's point,
is a criminal. To Anna's point. So who has the discretion to decide what is a crime?
Well, isn't that up to the White House? Don't they just need to be specific on the language?
On a case-by-case basis? I mean, what happens to the border enforcement agents? Does it vary? Does it vary state to state?
Well, the bottom line is we don't know those answers right now.
We don't know the answers to those, so you can understand why people who are here and have families and are worried because they don't even know.
No, sure. I talked to a dreamer on my show yesterday. She's a young woman. She came in and she, despite some of the language from Sean Spicer yesterday, she was saying, I feel like my mother is perceived as a criminal who's in Texas, who's here undocumented, despite the fact that they're saying that they don't want to mass deport, undocumented non-criminals. Whose voice do I? Nia, let me bring you back in.
I was going to say, one of the concerns, we talk about some of these families who might be caught up in this. Police officers also worried about being caught up in this, and are they going to be seen, if you are an illegal immigrant or undocumented immigrant, are they going to be seen as the enemy now, right? If you're a police officer in some of these communities, you need the cooperation of everybody in any community in terms of reporting crimes, in terms of being witnesses. So they have some concerns, too, about this, being caught up in this idea that there is a military force now, to use President Trump's words. And I do think, again, I think we're going to see the reverberations of this. Today we had Mexican leaders lecture the United States about human rights, which is not something that happens. It's usually the U.S. that is lecturing other countries about human rights violations. So this is going to have, I think, reverberate in many ways, not only in these individual communities, but